What's going on, everyone? So, I've talked about Nikola Vucevic and him potentially being a buyout candidate. Now, there were recent reports the other day that said, that it is expected that he's going to be bought out at some point this season, right? That Chicago has essentially been trying to pull off trades for him. That ship has sailed, right? They're not going to be able to move him. And so they are going to look to buy him out at some point. Well, Yahoo Sports recently did a whole post about it and said that the Chicago Bulls are expected to release Nikola Vucevic if a trade can't be finalized. Again, this is per Yahoo Sports. So again, more and more sources, more and more credible places are starting to come out and going like, yeah, Chicago is going to get off of him, right? Chicago people have even talked about like insider stuff like, yeah, they're going to end up waiving Nikola Vucevic, that they're just not going to be able to find a trade. Maybe you can pull something off. I've seen not like reports, but like people throw out like Miami, like do a Terry Rozier plus like a second or two to go get a Nikola Vucevic. Now, that's also the same trade that they might do to go get DeMar DeRozan. But I've seen people be like, hey, go get Vucevic. Terry Rozier's probably going to have, be a dead spot this year. Chicago probably does it because at least they get something rather than just buying him out and getting nothing. Right. So that kind of thing. But I don't know. One, would Chicago really want to do that? Two, do they just kind of want to buy him out, be done, move on? I mean, you think that they'd want a second round pick, but you also got to keep in mind, Chicago doesn't make the best decisions. Chicago isn't known as this like very competent front office and organization that just makes great decision after great decision. They're in the spot that they're in where they have to or potentially buy out Nikola Vucevic because of their incompetence. I mean, they were getting offers for second round picks and all that stuff based on reports that they were getting, but no, they wanted first, they wanted all this other stuff, even last trade deadline. Lakers on several occasions were interested in trading for him, but they weren't going to give up a first or anything for him because he didn't make any sense. But Chicago was like, no, I know what I have, right? They did the whole, like, hey, don't try to lowball me because I know what I have. Well, now you have nothing. And now you're going to have to buy him out because no one's going to go and trade for him. He's coming off of an excellent season, don't get me wrong, but he's 35 years old, right? And he's not, his defense is overblown, but he's not a good defender, right? He's not like people act like he's the worst defensive player in all of basketball. He's not that bad, right? He's a good kind of help defender. If you can kind of funnel the offensive player into him, he can clean it up. But if you leave him on an island, he's getting cooked, right? But like if you look at his defensive metrics, he actually has really good metrics, right? And a defense rating and all of that. But again, he's not a guy that you want anchoring your defense, right? But there's a lot of things about him and his contract and all that stuff where teams aren't trying to pony up, especially with the new CBA and everything. Chicago had chance after chance after chance after chance to do this and get this done, and they botched it every step of the way. So now they're going to end up having to buy out Nikola Vucevic. I think it probably happens, this offseason. The whole conversation about them buying him out in around the trade deadline is because he might have more value as an expiring contract. But Chicago then at that point also has to be willing to take on contracts to make sense and justify it, right? So like, Chicago's gonna have to pay Josh Giddey. They're gonna have to start paying guys here soon, right? They're a team that wants to compete and they're young and all that stuff. Like, are they gonna want to take on bad contracts? I don't think so, right? Unless there's a player that they really want, but that player has to want to go to them too. Like, again, it's one of those things where, like the Lakers, for example, they have a bunch of expiring contracts, but they have several needs. So that team could come along where, hey, we have this veteran we want to get out, like Andrew Wiggins. Miami could be like, hey, we want to get off Andrew Wiggins. We don't want to pay him another year. It's not working out. Boom, Lakers could go and trade for him and it makes sense, right? Andrew Wiggins doesn't make sense in Chicago. Like Chicago doesn't really have a need for him because they have several young guys and so you have to find the right trade. I'm not saying Nikola Vucevic won't have value, but you have to find the right trade. And again, Chicago, they're going to want assets in return for that. So I think it's very possible that they end up buying him out before training camp. I'm not saying like lock it in, he's going to be, but I do think it's very likely that they may end up buying him out just to kind of be done, go into training camp without that hanging over your head and you having to worry about it. And Nikola Vucevic is like, dude, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go to a contending team and all that stuff, right? Anywhere he goes, he's probably going to be a backup, right? Maybe a Warriors team I could see he makes some sense for, Indiana maybe, right? But Indiana, I don't like. I don't really think is going to be a contender this year, even with the Nikola Vucevic. So I don't really know about Indiana. Warriors, if I'm being honest, do make some sense for him. Make actually a lot of sense for him. But supposedly they may end up pulling off the Phoenix Suns actually pony up to go get Jonathan Kuminga. Supposedly Nick Richards is supposed to be in that deal. And then they have Post and stuff. So they might just kind of go that route. But look, if the Lakers can land Nikola Vucevic off of a buyout, you go land Nikola Vucevic off of a buyout. It's that simple, right? He's a guy that, yes, will be 35 years old, week into the season or whatever, but he as a backup would be fantastic. Right? He's more of a LeBron center than a Luka center, but you have two Luka centers on the roster. You have DeAndre Ayton and you have a Jackson Hayes. But also Nikola Vucevic gives you a couple things that none of those other guys do. His playmaking ability, kind of poor man Jokic type, where you can dump the ball down to him, run your offense through him at times. Good reader of defenses and can make quick decisions. Stretch the floor, knock down the three ball, right? So kind of gives you that floor spacing big. Excellent rebounder, right? But he's also a guy that can give you some stability at times where things kind of get a little unstable, right? Like he's a guy that does have back to the basket skills, right? DeAndre Ayton can kind of go over either shoulder, kind of do that little like push shot, stuff like that. He isn't very good at like the little fadeaway that he likes to do. It's actually his worst like percentage shot, and he actually likes that shot, so hopefully he kind of moves away from that. But Nikola Vucevic is a guy like, you'll see, like, I don't care how good you are offensively, your offense stagnates, right? And so it'd be nice to have a guy that you could throw in there, just throw it down to him on the block and let him go to work with either shoulder, either hand, right? I think that that's very beneficial for a Lakers team. And you bring in a guy that has been there, done that, been to playoffs, done various things out there, gives you that versatility, right? Who's a better backup than Nikola Vucevic would be? You're talking about a real starting level. I mean, even this year could be a starting level center that now you're moving into a backup role that is coming off of a 19-10-4 season on 53%. I mean, even if he's half of that off the bench and limited minutes, that's huge. If he could be double digits in scoring with like 5 or 6 rebounds, it'd be fantastic for the Lakers. Right? This better. Nikola Vucevic is better than all the other backup centers that we have. Better than Max Kleber. He's better than Jackson Hayes. So if you can bring him in, one, it also makes it easier now to trade Maxi Kleber because now you have another floor spacing big man. Two, now you don't have to rely on Jackson Hayes to be your primary backup. I still think you play him on occasion, but like to me, I think he's more of a third big. I think he's more of like that, 10 to 15 minute a night guy that comes in, plays a role for you, right? Can be that energy, effort, and hustle guy. That's where I look at Jackson Hayes. Where Nikola Vucevic, I think, can do so many things out there on the basketball court for this team. He could be very beneficial. So, I like, and I know some people are going to be like, oh, you've talked about this already. But again, we got another report from another source that says the same thing, right? Usually it's like, what's the consensus? Right? Where's all the smoke coming from? Because usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And Nikola Vucevic is somebody that the Lakers should keep an eye on. Another thing is I know Lakers don't have a roster spot right now, but if they know that they can get a Nikola Vucevic, at that point it makes sense to now go pony up and make a trade and do those things. Right? Like maybe now, if you know you can get Nikola Vucevic, let's say he says, I want to go to the Lakers. Right? Okay, well, now what you can do is now you can justify paying what you need to pay to go get in Andrew Wiggins, bring in Andrew Wiggins, you free up 2 roster spots, you can bring in a Nikola Vucevic on a vet minimum, bring in, another, can you get Amir Coffey at that point, or if another guy gets bought out, right? All of a sudden you solve 2 more of your needs, and now you're a deep, versatile team that has everything. You're telling like, if we had to trade Dalton Connect, Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, and, a first, or Dalton Connect, right? Let's say Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect, and a first to go get Andrew Wiggins, Nikola Vucevic, and another piece. I would do that. I would. I think it'd be worth it. I'd still try to keep my first if I can, right? Like if I'm the Lakers, I'm still kind of like, hey, look, you're getting Connect, you're getting all this stuff, or maybe at that point, maybe it is a Thibault or something, right? Maybe you're including Jackson Hayes in a trade because he waived his no trade clause, right? There's options, there's flexibility. You figure it out. If you know Nikola Vucevic is available, right? But you also, you need to see him become available. You need to see him get bought out, right? Because what if they do wait till the offseason or not the offseason, trade deadline, right? Post-trade deadline. right? What if they wait till the middle of the season before they buy him out, right? So you don't want to go and do all this stuff expecting him to come, and then, now you got to wait 4 months or whatever, and you don't know who else is going to be available. People are getting bought out like every day, right? And then on top of that, there's several guys. Based on how things play out, especially with the Jonathan Kuminga thing. Right, if Jonathan Kuminga goes to Sacramento, they're going to try to look to trade DeMar DeRozan. If they can't trade DeMar DeRozan, they're expected to buy him out. Right, so again, there's several pieces and players and all this stuff that could still end up happening. That's why I want the Lakers to continue to remain patient, continue to just let things unfold. If that right trade comes on, if tomorrow Miami's like, all right, fine, keep your first, let's just do the trade, then you do the trade. Right, it's also possible that if DeMar DeRozan goes to Miami, that they end up making the trade and end up, now, okay, fine, let's trade Andrew Wiggins, right? There's all kinds of possibilities and potentials that could still happen based on, the first domino kind of falling. But anyways, always, this is a discussion, pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.